This will be a little tricky. I hope you guys aren't too germophobic. We need to pass the mic because we want to get these vocals on the recording. So you're just going to pass the mic and I will grab it from you, Bowen, and walk it all the way back, okay? All right. Okay, so as we discussed, we are going to start with our 2-minute introductions. We're just gonna go in order, and we have our timekeeper here, and that is my cue to get out of the way. Enjoy, and Bill.
Okay. I'm Bill Howell. I served in the United States Air Force, born and raised in North Carolina, High Point. I taught in several school systems. 30 years as a teacher. I was biology, coach, athletic director. After I retired from education, I worked for the Department of Homeland Security, which I enjoyed that very much. When I retired from that, when we had a newspaper, which I miss, I got complaining about what the school system was doing, spending money for this and that. And my wife said, well, just run for the school board. I said, okay, I will. She said, you won't win. So, anyway, I did. I ran in 2016 and won, and I spent 2 terms. Enjoyed it very much. We had a great school board there in those, 6 years of my 8. And we got a lot accomplished. You may recall one of the things that the board I was on accomplished was we sold Mount Morn and spent the money to finish projects that our county commissioners had been kicking the can down the road and not done. And we as a board decided that we were going to spend that money to finish those projects before the commissioners would take that $2.7 million from us, or either apply that to what they were going to give us. So we did that to make sure that students, teachers get what they deserve. And I hope that you'll consider me for office. And I think I have a record. You can look me up because I did serve 8 years on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. I'm Brian Sloan. I'm running for District 1 School Board. I was born here in Iredell County. I was born at the old Davis Hospital in 1970. That tells you I'm about 27 years old now. I went to Central Elementary School. I went from Central Elementary to a private school for a while. There's a story behind that. And then I graduated from North Iredell High School in 1988. 1993, we married my best friend's sister. And we've been married ever since. We've got 3 boys. All 3 of them was graduated through the IB program at South Iredell High School. I've coached with having boys. I've always coached and been in the boys' lives, so I've coached every sport that I can think of as far as the boys' sports, and enjoyed them. And kids has always been my heart. And I listened to the older fellows up at the store eating breakfast one morning and had my back to them, but I was listening to them because the older people, they got wisdom, but we don't. And I heard one of them say, we need somebody from our district to run for school board. I never said a word, but I thought about it. I thought, if I'd done this, I could help more kids than coaching teams, because I'd be countywide. And I thought about it during the night. The next morning, my next door neighbor called and said, Brian, would you consider running for school board? And that's when I thought, well, that's what I need to do. So I told my wife. A week later, it's a whole lot like Mr. Howell's wife. She said, well, won't nobody vote for you? but I did get in. And school board is a difficult thing. You get some thank yous, but most of the time people is complaining, and that's fine. As far as I know, I've answered every email that's been sent to me, and I've tried to answer it as quickly as possible. And I don't have time to do school board, but I think it's important enough that I should do school board. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm John Sherrill. I'm born and raised in Iredell County. Went first grade through 12th grade in Iredell County Schools. I'm a graduate in 1988 of West Iredell. I taught for 31 years in public schools. 29 of those years were actually in Iredell County. 23 were at what I call Raleigh Middle School. It's moved down to Woodland Heights. The year that Woodland Heights opened up their middle school, I went to North Iredell and I finished out my term at North Iredell. Was there for a little over 7 years as the athletic director. I've just, for 30 years I've been involved in Iredell County Schools. I retired August the 1st, and I still want to be involved. And to me, this is a good way for me to stay involved. All of my children have gone to public schools. They all graduated from South Iredell High School. My wife graduated from Iredell County Schools. That's just what we've done always and what we want to continue to do. And I just felt like with retirement, this is a way that I can stay involved and help. Thank you.
You want me to say anything? Just let Luke say it.
I have to keep it equal and fair. We
all
threw
for
a
that.
wrench. We threw a wrench in for Christy. She thought she was speaking, but her husband did a little.
Kessels, I'm running for school board, District 5 for Iredell Statesville Schools. I just got a couple of brief minutes here to introduce myself, but first and foremost, I want to thank the Lord for giving me the platform to speak with you tonight. Thank you for being gracious with me to do this by video. I've been called away for work to the West Coast this week. Wife and I moved down here from Loudoun County, Virginia in 2013, and we saw a trend that was happening up there that I am beginning to see happening here. With the public school system, it's becoming more and more progressive, and the focus is less and less and less on the outcome of the student and what that student can produce as an adult going into the community. So I have been on the board of Liberty Prep for the last 8 years. It's a private Christian school here in Mooresville. I've been a direct part of the school growing from 50 students to almost 500 students, and one of the ways we've done that is being exceptional stewards of our money. If you know anything about a private school, we don't get any state money, we don't get any federal money, we don't get any local money. We get parents' money, and when you get parents' money, and you need to account for every single penny and where it goes and what it does, and then account for that through the board back to the parents, because they're basically shareholders in the school. You got to be a good steward of that. So with that being said, I'd like to bring some of the best parts of that experience over the last 8 years to the public school. I do not have a PhD in education. I have degrees in biology, healthcare management, and then physician assistant studies that I got from the military, being a Navy corpsman all the way through to an independent corpsman traveling around the world with a bunch of Marines, fixing stuff, and that's what I do. I repair things that need fixing, that need people to come together to collaborate and solve problems. And I don't see that in the system right now. I don't see that on the board. I had an opportunity to sit down with the superintendent, Dr. Jeff James, with the sheriff, with a lot of concerned parents, and just getting feedback that they're losing confidence in the public school system, and I think we can do a lot better. So, hey, I thank you for a few minutes tonight to speak with you. Feel free to get my card. My email is on there. Email me directly, my cell phone. I'd love to chat with you about any questions you have. But have a great evening and enjoy. Christy, my wife, she's there to do some follow-up questions should you have them. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Luke's like, you need a shout out.
Hey, my name's Luke.
Didn't need to do that. Okay, awesome.
You got a shout out. Good evening, everybody. My name's Bowen Nutting. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your interest in your children. First of all, I always start by letting you know where my name came from because it's so weird. My great-grandmother came over to America from Norway. She came through Ellis Island, and her name was Nellie Bowen, and so that's where my name comes from. It sounds, you have to put a W in there, even though there's no W, so it sounds like B-O-W-E-N. I was not born and raised in Iredell County, but I have lived here since the intersection of Williamson Road and Brawley School Road was a four-way stop, and there was a sign on the corner that said firewood for sale. So I've definitely lived here longer than anywhere else. I am from Georgia. My husband and I met at the University of Georgia. We moved to Race City, USA for NASCAR. My husband works in the racing industry. He was lucky enough to get a little startup job with a rookie driver named Jeff Gordon. So we are happy to be here in Mooresville, and I have 2 boys. I'm very, very proud of them. They're also went to South Iredell High School and all through the Iredell County schools. I do have a doctorate in education and have been a principal, assistant principal at the elementary, middle, and high school level. I was assistant principal at Mooresville Senior High School over in the Mooresville Graded School District. I served as the Director of Human Resources for 8 years in Mooresville. I've done public information for the school district. How many seconds?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. I've been a principal for 14 years here at Lake Norman Elementary and at Mount Warren, and also served at our district office working in student services. I did my dissertation on special education children, and I finished my career as assistant superintendent of the Iredell Statesville schools. So I do think we're doing some great things in the school district, and I think we have a lot of places to grow also, but I'm here to bring that experience to you.
Okay, well, we'll get into the question round. So what happened to me is I popped into a Republican Women's Club and I saw all the introductions and I thought, well, my people are gonna have some specific questions. So they were all very gracious and allowed me to go right into questions, and I was gracious too. I gave them time to get their thoughts together. So nothing's been sprung on them, but you are allowed to spring things on them later. Okay, all right. So the number, we're just gonna go down the line and we'll do the first question. I will say it and then y'all can answer it. If anyone needs it repeated, then I can say it again. So the first question is, what is the #1 initiative that is driving you to seek a seat on the school board? And they get 1 minute.
I think I have so much more to give. I've been service all my life, and I love children. And I think this school system is better than some people would think. We're a good school system because I've been other places and I know. And so we're a good school system. Yes, we have problems, but I don't know one that does not. So I want to serve. I like children, and I think that's important.
I think we need somebody standing in the gap that looks at everything through a Christian lens. We've got things that's coming our way that if you don't look at it through a Christian lens, it's going to get through. And I think even if I don't get it changed, I'll be the one in the wilderness that you can hear the voice. Maybe we can point out some things. Thank you.
I want to help and see our school board do better than it has the last couple of years. You have to be able to get along and work together to be successful. In my role as an AD, I think our programs were more successful because our coaches not only got along, but we all supported each other. Our school board needs to do the same. You should be able to disagree, but also respect each other enough to work together to ensure success.
Luke wants to bring influence and insight to the school board to bring the best of the private educational model to a larger demographic with conservative values and actions for any family that wants it.
I am doing this because I have a deep love for public education, and I know that we do a great job because I can look around this room and I know your children and many of your children. I served as their principal, and I'm so terribly proud of them and how they've turned out. And I believe in public education. I believe in the Iredell Statesville schools. And I'm doing this because I want to bring civility to our board. And I also want us to concentrate on there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done and not a lot of time for us to sit around and fuss at each other. And so I hope to be able to bring that to the table.
I just got an idea. Am I on that?
You actually are. It's really nice and
Okay, I
wide.
was gonna say I could take over Cindy's.
No,
spot.
you're
Okay.
good. It's good.
All right, we are gonna go with number 2. What do you believe is the number one concern that is facing Iredell County Public Schools?
Number one.
Number one to me is lack of funding. We don't have enough to serve the children of our county. When people talk about charter schools and all this, but when you have severely profound, exceptional children, they always go to public schools because that is the most expensive education. Because if a child's in a wheelchair, they have to be taken to the bathroom. And charter schools don't want those children. They want money, but they don't want those children. So it's always the public schools. We are underfunded. I told somebody before this meeting started that Iredell County was last or next to last in per pupil spending, but yet we're number 15 in affluence of the 100 counties. It's time to support our children.
The number one thing that's affecting our schools is the breakdown of the family. If each family had a good mom and a good dad, we would have good students, we'd have teachers, they would be a lot easier to teach and would make everything a lot better. And that's something that I can't fix, but it's something that needs to be brought attention to and something that should be fixed.
Well, I think I agree with Bill. Our number one concern is the budget. Money's always an issue. No matter how much you have, you can always use more. As a high school AD, we didn't have a budget. It was what we could raise. You know, we got no money from the central office. We had to pay for everything. There are expenses that are passed down. And while I was in charge, we always came out to the good and had money to roll over and start the next year. Before I got to North, they were always dependent on what's called in our business as fall billing, where you get everything for the fall and you don't get billed for it until you get those football gates. And after, first year was COVID, so it was hard to count that year, but my second year, we were rolling money over at the end of the year to have startup money for the next year. And when I left, you know, we had plenty of money in the budget. Now, just like I said, no matter how much money you have, you can always spend more, but I do think that is our biggest concern.
So Luke has been talking to people, parents, staff, students, for a while since he started really thinking about running, and from what feedback he's gotten and observations, he feels like the most important concerns are overcrowding in some schools, budget transparency and accountability, and then to support, maintain, and attract qualified and passionate educators.
So I kind of have three things that I'm focusing on that I think are the most important things. The number one thing that I'm sharing is the fact that I believe that teaching is the noblest calling, and there just really is not any other job any more important than that. And so attracting and retaining quality educators is my number one concern. The quality of the education that your child receives in the classroom is predicated on the quality of the teacher that is in that classroom with your child. And so I think that is the number one thing. I have two other prongs. The second one has to do with collaboration. I have built relationships over the years with our county commissioners, with the Mooresville Graded School District, with Mitchell Community College, with the town of Mooresville, the city of Statesville, the town of Troutman. And so I think those collaborations are really important as we discuss finance and that sort of thing. And then finally, growth. I agree with you. There's certain parts of the county that are growing more rapidly than others. And so here's the big thing that's coming up that y'all are gonna struggle with, and that's rezoning schools, moving children from this high school to this high school, from this middle school to this middle school. And that's where things get tough. And so those are really important conversations to have.
Well, we're already to question number 3, and I think this is going quite nicely. How are y'all doing out there? Awesome. All right. So number 3, how will you vote when it is time to renew the calendar? The early calendar allows teachers and students to take exams before Christmas break. Late, the one that was made state law by Phil Berger to appease the tourism industry, costs the district more money and causes students and teachers to have a long Christmas and New Year break before they take their final exams. So this is a quick one. Would you vote early or late?
For 8 years, I voted for early because I always put the student first. If you go back and look at my vote record, I voted early. Now, I do have some ideas that I want to share with the superintendent, that we can be in compliance with the law and still have exams before Christmas. It's possible. And if I elected, I will discuss those with him. It'll be up to him to decide. The other reason is down. There's the wind blowing now. We're talking about going back to 6 periods a day, which I imagine most of you went through high school like that. That way we don't need as many teachers either. So we have more teachers in the classroom and less teachers on break. So, but that causes a change, and I'm sure there'll be gnashing of the teeth and everything else. So anyway, thank you.
Early or late calendar?
Am I about out of time? All right, if I was a good politician, I'd tell you I was voting for the early calendar. And the early calendar is by far the best choice for really everybody. The reason so far I can't vote for it is because I put my hand on the Bible and took an oath that I could. And if you're looking at me and thinking, well, you break law all the time, you're correct. I break the speed limit regularly. I hate anybody telling me I gotta wear a seatbelt. But I didn't put my hand on the Bible and say that I wouldn't do those things. And I'm trying very hard. I've talked to the lawyers to see if we could postpone or set aside the oath for a minute, if we could change the oath, if we could do anything. So far, I've only found one thing that was unorthodox that we could get by with, and I talked to another board member and didn't make any headway with it. So as of now, I'll vote for the late calendar.
I will vote for the early calendar just because I feel like that is what's best for our students. As you said in the question, we do finish the exams and everything before Christmas, but it also gives those that are graduating early the opportunity to start college right away if that's the track that they're going to do. And since the state lowered the requirements for high school graduation, we have a lot of early graduates. We've had some in North this past year that graduated in 3 years. It wasn't the 3.5 at Christmas. They're graduating in 3 years. It also puts everybody on the same schedule at North. We have an early college on campus, and if they have to be on the early schedule because of their classes at Mitchell, and if traditional school's on one schedule and they're on another schedule, it costs a lot of money because they still have to run the buses for everybody every day. They still have to feed everybody every day. So there are a lot of advantages for the early schedule, early calendar.
We're not usually politically correct, so this is kind of exciting. Early is what Luke says. Students are the priority, not tourism dollars. Calendar should reflect this. There are long and short-term reasons to support. He's happy to discuss if anyone wants to reach out to him on that.
I believe that we have 114 school districts in the state of North Carolina. There are 100 counties, and I believe that every county should get to decide how they want to set their calendar, because I believe that when you get proximate to a problem, then you come to the solution that works best for your community and for your children. They changed the law in 2004. I remember it very, very clearly. We've been arguing with the state about this since 2004. I absolutely believe in allowing our school board and our superintendent and our teachers to decide on when our kids should start school, when they should go home. We decide when they're out for snow. So I think that we should get proximate to the problem and allow our school districts to set their own calendars.
Okay, what is your plan to address budget issues and find ways to better fund programs and people?
We have to elect people that like public education. We have to talk to our legislators. I told someone before this meeting started, we only get 14% lottery money now, 14% of the profit. We did get 40, and our legislatures has dropped that number down. Now you as a citizen can speak to your representative and say, wait a minute, that's enough. Because it is the educational lottery, correct? Mm-hmm. And personally, I don't believe the state should sponsor gambling. But it is what it is. I'll take the money as an educator. There are ways we can save money. This education is not a business. It can't be treated like a business because we're dealing with people and children. So if you ran a business and let's say you were making ice cream and somebody sent you a bag of moldy nuts, you'd send them back. But if somebody sends us children that come from mamas that smoke crack or selling drugs out the back door, we can't tell those children they can't come to school. So those are things that we face. Thank you.
I don't have a good plan for getting more money. I can tell you what I have done in all my life. I've never begged for money until I got on the school board. And since I've been on the school board, I've begged for money. Our county commissioners is where we get most of our money from, that I have any say at all. When I came on the board, just my view, we had a terrible relationship with our county commissioners. And since then, it has improved, and money has improved as well. And I am completely proud of our county commissioners, and I would just like to publicly thank them for it.
I sort of addressed this earlier because this was my top initiative, but I also feel like that there are some current spending procedures that can be addressed and looked at to make sure that we are following the things that we're supposed to follow. And I also agree that the county commissioners have done a lot better job here in the last couple of years. And I do have some, what I think is good relationships with not just some of the commissioners that we have now, but some of the new ones that are coming on.
First, gain commonality and trust within the board and superintendent's office around the need to address budget concerns. Second, seek to fully familiarize and understand the current spending model, and only then can we begin the task of fully auditing income, costs, and expenses, and then alternative funding. An external third party is recommended. Cutting staff is easy, yet the most disruptive technique when a budget is constrained. I have direct insight and influence on a $300 million medical manufacturing budget, and we audit ourselves every 2 years based on industry and federal regulation to ensure that we are good stewards of our revenue. These would be the initial actions to regain transparency and accountability and find new ways to fund critical programs.
And the school district does do a regular audit, and I want to say this with all due respect to my friends who have served on the school board as an employee of the public school system for 30 years, and someone with an intimate knowledge of North Carolina school budget and finance. In fact, I've taught a class on it at the university level. There have been times, and forgive me, I love you guys, where I wish I could come over and whisper in your ear what questions to ask about the budget. School budgets are very, very hard to understand. They're extremely complex. It takes years to understand all the pots of money, where the money is hiding, what we can spend on what we can take from this pot to put into that pot. I know what questions to ask. I know what's behind door number 2. And so I'm excited about being able to sit on the board and ask the questions but I've been writing in my little notebook for the last 20 years.
Okay, well, when you run the debate, you get a little freedom there, and so what if the superintendent won't answer? Next question is about the superintendent. Since you are, as a board, responsible for evaluating the superintendent, what is one positive you observe and one area that you believe needs improvement?
Dr. James is an honest man. Dr. James is unique as a superintendent because he was in the business world before he became a teacher, an educator. And he has a unique knowledge that many superintendents don't have. If I had a negative about him, he's too nice. When people fail, he tends to put them in another job. That's his choice. But if we try to improve those people, but at the same time, I'm not going to let them continue to hurt children. And I think he's too nice sometimes. But anyway, that would be my criticism, if anything. But he is a great man, and I think we're lucky to have him.
I'd like to brag on our superintendent. I think he's incredibly smart, and he strives very hard not to fail at anything. One thing I think he could improve on is he seems to, if there is some sense of failure, he shifts the blame. He finds somebody, it's not really our fault, it's somebody else's fault. And I would like for us to claim what is wrong and try to fix it.
The positive I see is that Iredell Statesville Schools offers a lot of choices to our students. Everybody's different, but with all that we have to offer, everybody should find something that they can be successful in. I think Dr. James has done a great job not only maintaining our choices with the budget that we have, but he has also added to them. I'd also like to hold off on answering what needs improvement. A lot of times what I see, especially as an educator for 30 years, and a lot of that time has been under him, what I see as needs improvement might be something that I don't understand. So I would rather be able to sit down with him and discuss something that needs to be improved and see his side of it before I just say, this is an issue. And I think as a school board member, I'll be able to do that.
Luke says, I met with Dr. James this week for nearly 2 hours. I believe him to be a highly educated, well-experienced executive officer. With that, I also left our time lacking a clear plan and motivation to move the Iredell Statesville school system forward with a conservative, student-centric agenda. I heard more statements citing limitations imposed from the state and how there's too much dictation and oversight. That may be the case, however, I would have preferred to hear more activities that were tried and failed and then re-corrected, or are we challenging the status quo and going a different way because of local collaboration, using the budget we receive with fresh ideas and creativity?
One thing that I can say that is a positive about Dr. Jeff James is that he is from Iredell County. He has an intimate knowledge of Iredell County, all the way from Olin, all the way down to the Mecklenburg line at Cottle Creek Elementary School. He knows everybody. He knows all the political figures. He knows the elected officials. He knows the unelected folks that also have power in Iredell County. So he's very much plugged in Iredell County. I would definitely say that he's definitely one of the good old boys. Now, for something that I think that he can improve upon, I feel like as the only person sitting up there on with the board making the big bucks, that he could do some more work behind the scenes to bring the school board together. Some of these recent school board meetings that I've watched, I felt as they started that there was already something brewing, and there were already ideas that were created, and I feel like a leader can take somebody and sit down with them and they can debate and get it out, and if they're angry, they can tell that, and then they come out together as a group. I think that's what a real leader should do. And so I would ask that he spend more time trying to bring our school board together, because he's in charge.
Yeah.
All right, that's a great segue to the next question, number 6. For the past 3 years, the community has been aware of strife and division on the board, but few understand the root causes. How will you approach a divided board and work with the people that are elected to serve with you?
I served 8 years on the school board, 6 of which we got along. Everybody was pleasant. We disagreed, but we acted human to one another. And I think respecting each other's opinion is where it has to start. We all differ in opinions. I like rice. You may like potatoes. Okay. But we don't have to be angry with one another because we disagree. And I think that's the main thing. I've always been able to sit down with someone and speak in an adult way and come to a consensus, which is, the way it should be. And you don't air dirty laundry in public. Everybody knows that, right? Thank you.
Our school board meetings has been the best show in town. In our school board training we get sent to, the majority of our training says to agree with the superintendent as much as you can and don't be the best show in town. And we have failed on one part of that, and the other part of it is agreeing with the superintendent. We don't need to be a rubber stamp. But what I could do to help is when I coach middle school football team, I don't think it could be anything more difficult than that. And I always wanted the kids to play because they wanted to play for me, not because I was making them to. And I think if I was in the lead of the board, that I could convince the board members to work for me and not me telling them what to do. Thank you.
I've missed very few meetings in the past 5 or 6 years, either in person or watching them online. And I think I have a pretty good idea, about the issues that I've seen. As mentioned before, board members must respect each other as adults, and they should be able to disagree and still work together for the system and the people who elected you. You aren't going to always get your way, but you have to remember you play on the same team, and you need to be able to work together for success.
Luke says, the board must be unified, even with opposing views, to be student-centric. To create a culture of positivity and effectiveness, I will, based on my 30-year experience, gain commonality and trust quickly, and then build on that for a greater vision and a common objective. Any threat to or perceived personal agenda will cause greater division and possibly irreparable damage to the school system. I believe that to be the paramount need of the current school board. There is no room for ego, narcissism, or personal agendas when the common objective is to raise, train, and educate kids for success.
Like many of you, I feel like I do understand the root cause of some of the things that have happened on the school board in the last couple of years. I certainly was living through it when we went through COVID, and that's when things got really ugly. That's when it got really ugly, devastating emotionally, physically, was just ugly. And I think we learned a lot from that. And so I think we can build on that. I think some of my answer before about the superintendent too, I think is another piece we need to pull in to make sure that we're all working together. I actually think about Kelly Harris and I actually pulled it up because years ago, Kelly got up to speak with her 3-minute speech, and she had something to say about me at the board meeting. Right? And
I don't recall.
I don't remember that. I looked it up.
I'll look it up too.
And here's the thing, Kelly and I we've had lots and lots of conversations since then. what I've learned is that Kelly and I have a lot in common. We're both very, very proud moms. We both have many, many of the same beliefs. And so it's really about talking with each other, being civil with each other, and allowing us to disagree and then come to a decision together.
Thanks, Mom. Ooh, a little red on my face. I have to look that up later. Okay, well, question 7. Moms for Liberty seeks to educate, empower, and unify parents to protect their parental rights at all levels of government. How will you advocate for parents who have the right to direct the upbringing of their children in your role? How will you encourage parental involvement?
I hope you do. That's the problem schools face today, is parents aren't involved enough. Schools today, I can see secondary, have more communication with parents than ever before because of electronics. And we communicate with parents. Now, they may not communicate back, but we communicate with parents. Now, if a parent had a problem, they could call the school. I've told many, many parents in my 8 years, if you have a problem and the principal cannot solve it, go to the superintendent. If he doesn't solve that problem, then go to a board member. We could solve that problem. We don't want your child to be afraid to go to school because he's being bullied. We don't want your child to fail because of an issue. So parents have got to take that role, and many of you do, some of you don't. Thank you.
Parent involvement. I like to call our kids, and I always call them our kids, but they're not our kids, they're your kids. You've got the right to grow them the way you want to grow them. You've got the right to put them in the schools you want to put them in. You've got the right to look at the education that they're getting, the books that they're reading. Everything about school should be you. And you have every right to look into all of that, and as much as I hate it, you got the right to complain about it, and that's fine. But I do ask, anytime you get a chance to brag on one of our teachers, if you see them do something good, that's what I would like. Thank you.
Well, first, I guess I need to say I do believe in the Parent for Education Act. To me, the more parents are involved, the better. As a teacher, coach, and athletic director, it seems you always find a few doing the work for many. And it's sort of like what you were saying here about how you can always need, you can always use more help. When parents get involved, it just makes things easier. Parents get to see firsthand what's really going on. School employees get to know and interact with these parents. Everyone should be in it for the same reasons, the success and well-being of the students. And the more that you have working towards that goal, the easier it is.
As a school board member, I will advocate for parents by making sure their voices are truly part of the decision-making process. Parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children, and I see the board's role as creating a transparent, collaborative environment where families feel informed and respected. That means clear communication about curriculum, policies, and district priorities, and making sure parents have accessible ways to share feedback and concerns. To encourage parental involvement, I will focus on building strong relationships between families and schools. I support flexible opportunities for parents to engage, whether that's attending meetings, participating in advisory groups, and connecting through multiple communication channels that fit different schedules and needs. I also believe in creating a welcoming, inclusive atmosphere where every parent feels valued, regardless of background. When parents feel heard and supported, they're more likely to stay involved, and that partnership is essential for student success.
I absolutely am 1,000% support parents being involved. I am excited that in Iredell County that we have choices for our children. We can send our children to the public school, we can send them to charter school, we can send them to private school. How wonderful is it that we have all of those choices for where we want to send our children. I support everybody please, come look at our books in the library, help your child decide what books you want them to read, help them decide how much screen time you want them to have. We know for a fact, research shows us that children who have a strong home-school connection they do better in school. They just perform academically, they just perform better than children that don't have a strong home-school connection. So I'm excited to be here with the Moms for Liberty. I love the idea that we have parents that want to be involved, and I support it 100%.
Okay, number 8. Where on the agenda do you believe public comment should occur for the one meeting a month that is required by law? We're giggling at this one. Before votes, it happens before votes at Mooresville Grading School District, Mooresville Town, and Iredell County Commissioner meetings, or as it stands now, it happens after the agenda and most business is complete.
School board and the county commissioners are the last bastion where people can get up and speak to your elected leaders. You don't go down to Raleigh and try to speak to legislature. You get arrested. So I think it's good. I heard a lot of things from a different people. Quite frankly, I don't care when they speak. Speak to me before, speak to me after. I can tell you I answered hundreds of emails before a vote sometimes, and that's okay, because that's what you signed on to do. But if somebody wanted me to vote to put it in the front, I don't care. I'll be glad to. It doesn't matter to me. It's not that big a deal. But you can make it that. And I'm not going to argue about something like that. We just get it done. Let's go. All right? Thank you.
My favorite thing at the school board is shaking them youngest hands and telling them congratulations and good job. My second favorite thing is school spotlight. And then right after school spotlight is where public comment should be. And public comment, I always look forward to it. I'm absolutely sure it's my third favorite thing at the school board meeting. And I would vote every time and have voted every time that we move it forward.
I sort of agree with Bill that I don't know if it really matters, but if I had to pick at the beginning or at the end, I think I would pick at the beginning, just because I watched this last school board, the committee of the whole meeting, and it was almost 5 hours long. If you have the talking at the end, the public comments at the end, some people that really want to say something might not have 5 hours out of their day to spend and wait to the end to do it. So to me, that would be the one reason that I would say we need to put it at the beginning.
I believe parents, staff, and students should be given the most accessible time slot available. I strongly encourage the board to adopt an earlier public comment period. Board members voluntarily chose to run for their positions, while community speakers did not. They should not have to wait long periods to share their concerns with the board.
For many, many years, we did not video or live stream school board meetings. And guess what? Nobody came for years. I was waiting and hoping for you guys for years. Would be the same ones of us every single month. And nobody read the minutes. Nobody asked any questions. Nobody showed up. I'm thrilled when y'all show up. I think it should be at the beginning. My boys are 26 and 23. My life is starting to slow down a little bit. A lot of the time, the parents that want to come and speak have got lots of kids at home. They've got jobs. They need to make dinner. They got to do this. They got to go to ball practice. Let them speak at the beginning because, gosh, I'm really glad they're there. And I'm thrilled that when we have a room full of folks.
Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. We're down to the last question, and it's why are you the right fit for this job to earn our vote? 1 minute each.
Okay, I am the right fit because of my experience. I am the right fit because I like children. If you've read my webpage, you're going to see that I enjoy being a teacher. And I think and I said, why be a teacher? Because the payoff is when you see one of the children that you taught do something good in life. I told quickly, I had a young man, and I taught biology, and he was very interested in intestinal worms. And so years later, I got a mail, in the mail, I got a box. And inside the box was a bottle. In the bottle was a tapeworm. That he was in medical school at Wake Forest. And he says, I remember your class. Here's the worm. That's why you teach.
That's great.
My mama graduated from Central Elementary, which was a high school at the time. My dad graduated from Union Grove, I'm going to say high school this time because it was high school. I graduated from the school that I represent now, North Iredell High School. The reason I'm the right fit for this job is exactly because I don't fit in very well. I'm different. I listened to my preacher Wednesday night. He talked about Acts 4:13, and there was two men in Acts 13 that was uneducated. And they looked down on them, but then they seen that they was different. And that's what I would like to be seen as different.
I want to be on the school board to help our students, teachers, parents, and community as a whole. I do not want to be a politician. You will never see my name on another ballot for anything else. You've never seen it before, and you never will if I do not get elected here. I'm not using this as a stepping stone to run for something else. Being on the school board to help our system is what I want to do.
Just saying, Luke was wordy on this one. I need my glasses. I am the right fit because I bring a perspective shaped by real collaboration and team building. I have a documented track record of success uniting people around a shared mission to create a cohesive, high-performing environment from my private school board experience and professional experience. My 8 years of school board experience demonstrate what is possible when innovation and accountability work hand in hand. I've helped build a school, manage revenue responsibly, and form strategic alliances that create competitive, student-centered learning environments. Most importantly, I understand the granular efforts of what is required to prepare students for adult life, whether their path leads to college, the workforce, trade school, or military service. 3 of our 4 kids graduated from public school and 1 from private. We have seen a variety of education. Effective education requires vision, adaptability, and a willingness to challenge outdated systems, qualities that I have demonstrated throughout my service.
Why are you the right fit?
Why
Why am I the right
Yes,
fit?
why are you the right?
What happens when you're last? What I would say is I think that public education is the foundation of a solid community, and I would be honored to receive your vote because I believe that public schools will drive what happens in our community moving forward. I'll also tell you that of all the candidates here, I truly went from the classroom to the boardroom. And so I have the experience to ask the questions that need to be asked, to, again, like I said before, look behind door number 2, because I know what's behind door number 2. And I actually thought the superintendent was coming tonight because I tried to add up. I would like to say that I think I started going to school board meetings in 2004 when I was the Director of Human Resources for the Mooresville Graded School District. So I promise you, I have been to more board meetings than I think anybody in this room, and I have an intimate interest and love of the public schools here in Iredell County.
concludes the planned portion of our forum. Why don't we give all the candidates a huge round of applause. And we're a very gracious group of folks listening in, and I wonder if you might have a few questions. Maybe we have time for 3. Are you guys up for them? So if anybody had a burning question, I'm going to see, I have 1, 2, 3. We got our 3. We'll do the same thing. We'll just let them ask and go all the way down the line. Oh, here we go. Let's time it because it's just getting late. I got one more thing to say.
So, all of y'all can probably be effective board members, okay? Except, if you get into the situation that is in the board right now, and has been on the board for the last several years, where the chairs block the voices of individual board members that they don't agree with. They won't even let them put topics on the agenda that are very important. If that happens, you're worthless. There may as well be a store mannequin sitting in your chair instead of you. So will you commit, because this is under your power as board members, to hold the chair accountable? Because you all elect them, the chair and the vice, right? Are you going to hold them accountable such that they start blocking people's opinions, right? People's agenda items? Will you vote them out and put a new chair in? That's my question.
What's the question?
Will
Are
you
you
hold
willing- I
the
did
chair
understand-
accountable
yeah, will
to
you
not
hold-
to blocking people's opinions and putting things on the agenda?
I did.
And the kind of things that are going on now. Well,
I did serve as chairman,
I know.
and I didn't block any board member. Now because of the way our agenda is made, any board member, and I tell you, I told the board members many times, 5 days, go in and say, I want to talk about this. It can be put on the agenda, but don't grandstand, which is what some board members actually did, for whatever the reason. And, we have to have decorum. And so I don't think I ever blocked anyone from speaking or anyone from putting something on the agenda, because I told them, hey, give me 5 days and we'll get it on the agenda for you. I want to do that. So, okay.
I would never block an agenda item. If a board member wants to bring an agenda item up and they look foolish when they bring it up, that's on them. I think in Robert's rules, if there's 2 board members that wants the same agenda item, that by the rules it's supposed to be put on the agenda. And yes, it's very hard to get an agenda item. And I would like for it to be accountable. As far as voting, when do we get a vote for that? We vote for the chair, and I've not voted for a chair in a long time that actually took the chair. Thank you.
I do think everybody's opinion should be listened to, but I also think that as far as getting something on the agenda, the policies and procedures that are in place need to be followed. That's why they're there.
I'll do my best to answer for my husband, but he's a pretty decisive person. If all the process has been followed and one person is going rogue and not putting it on, then I think if there's a bad apple in a bunch, then that bad apple is tainting things. So I would assume that Luke would want cohesion, and he's all about team building. So if I had to speak for him, that's what I would assume.
I believe that everyone that has an interest in having something discussed at a school board meeting should have that opportunity. Yeah, that's it.
All right, we'll let the question come back here. All right.
I'd like to know, you guys are brilliant, all of you are. I'd like to know your opinion on Mount Pleasant recently in South Carolina, no more cell phones at their schools. So then the state said no more cell phones in schools in South Carolina. What are you guys' opinion on the cell phones and watches that they can check their email, and your opinion about it?
The number one distraction, according to educators today, is that cell phone. It's a little computer. I've had teachers tell me, sheet. You know what I did? I gave them a paper test. Oh, they couldn't cheat on that. So, North Carolina passed a law, I believe, a couple of years ago, said no cell phones on during school. The problem with all these things that happen is that you force teachers to enforce them. You enforce the school to be police officers. And you don't give them any extra money. And you don't give them any extra time. So that's the issue. We're more concerned about, is there a gun in the school? Is a child trying to bring a gun into school? Things like that. Yes, cell phones do distract. And if anybody in here has an idea, I guarantee you I'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Very difficult question. Cell phones are a big distraction in public schools. If you take them away, you're also taking away some parents' rights, because the parents would like to communicate with their kids on breaks, during lunch, after school, to find out practices, anything that's coming up. I think if we could take social media away 100%, that I would vote absolutely yes.
As a teacher, cell phones are definitely the biggest problem. And the easiest thing to do would be to say, yeah, let's just get rid of the cell phones. Then the biggest fight you would have would be with the parents, because they wanted to have cell phones. I think there's a happy medium where you could say there's no cell phones allowed during the class. As soon as that bell rings, they have to be out. The policy of my class was, if I saw it, I took it. They knew they weren't allowed in the classroom. If I saw it, I took it. I put a sticky note on it, and it went to the office, and then they had to go pick it up at the end of the day. And I really had very few arguments about that. That was in my, my rules that the parents signed, so the parents agreed on that before it happened. And once you have that, it does make it easier. It would be great if it was no cell phones in school, but you're not going to have parents agree to that.
Right, this one is totally going to be my answer. I know Luke is opposed to cell phones, but I actually am a school nurse and I work at a school, and this year we have done something new where somebody built these cubbies, and every student, when they come into class, has to turn their cell phone into the cubby. It does, what you said is true, it does, the onus is put on the teacher to make sure, but it's nice with the cubby because you can do a quick visual to see which slot is missing a cell phone. And let me tell you, working with teenagers, they all have cell phones. Now our middle schoolers don't always have cell phones, but our high schoolers do. So my assumption would be that Luke would want to limit cell phone use. But again, this is really Christy's opinion.
I'm gonna be really interested to watch what happens in South Carolina with that. I love that idea. I can't tell you as a building level principal how many phones I kept in the drawer in my office because I had teachers bring them to me and then the parent had to come pick them up after school. I agree. Yeah, parents get really angry with you about taking those phones away, but I'm gonna follow that very closely because I'd love to see how that goes. I have seen teachers that do the little pockets on the back of the door, like that you put your shoes in and you put your phone in there and you have to turn it off. And that works really well. Some teachers, try that on their own, and I think that's a great idea. If we could do that, try it, maybe pilot that at a school, we could do that. But yeah, I'm gonna watch what happens in South Carolina. I'd love to take the parents' permission, I think.
All right, and we have the final question, unless you want to take it to the family house later. Here's June Reed.
I want to thank you all for being here and for stepping up, because it's, I'm sure you don't get compensated as much as what you're going to give out for those who get this. But my question is this, and it has to do with the health of children. You mentioned COVID before, and that seems like a long way to go, but we will eventually face something like that again. And I've seen kids in school that Well, I watch them come in when they're dropped off, and the lunch lady's there, and she's got Danishes and sweets, junk, and that bothers me. Because I just want to know what you would intend to do to help our kids be healthier, because as they are healthier, they can learn better. And so that can be, you can answer from, do you agree with the masking and the virtual schools that we had before? Would you go to that route again? Would you stay away? Or you can answer this with like your food. What are you going to do to increase, what our kids are actually putting in their mouth?
How about more recess? That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, schools are bound by federal law, what we can serve and what we cannot serve. Now, since President Trump came into office, things have gotten a little better. And also, you may have heard in the news that they've taken the food pyramid and turned it upside down.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
And so I really believe that you're going to see a healthier generation. But it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And yes, the schools have a big deal. We try to prepare food for children, and just they don't like some of it. And, maybe you don't like certain things. My wife doesn't like turnip greens. So anyway, so it's what you like. But we try to please the palate of our children. And increasing the protein, particularly in elementary, is going to help. I really believe that. And it is a chore. It is a challenge for public schools today. Thank you.
I'm gonna go back to the breakdown of family, because a lot of our kids come in, they're hungry when they get there. You can't learn when you're hungry. A lot of our kids leave on Friday, they don't get food until they come back on Monday. You can't learn that way. It's difficult, it's sad to hear the stories that we hear as a board about our children and what they go through. I want to touch on COVID and masking a little bit. I felt bad for the board at the time. I was running for school board, and I got to hear all the people fussing at the school board members, and really we didn't know what COVID was. We didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know how to prevent it. All of my assumptions on it was correct, but we didn't know. I thought masks were silly. I was coaching football at the time. They told me I had to wear a mask as a coach outside, or pay a penalty. I said, well, what's the penalty? I'll just go ahead and pay it and not wear the mask.
Well, I was a physical education teacher for 30 years, so of course I agree with you. More recess. There's not a lot of physical activity that is required at school. When you get to high school, you can take more. I would like to see maybe more required, and then that puts it on the kids that they have to do it. I also see with the nutrition, a lot of that has to start at home, because there are nutritional choices at school. The kids just have to choose. Each cafeteria, just like with the athletics that I talked about, they have to make their own money and stay in the good. And if they're not selling anything, then they're losing money. And it always comes back to budget money.
Y'all might regret giving me the microphone on this, because I am a school nurse. Loving Maha, I'll just tell you from my personal opinion, a lot of what is going on makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of opposition to it, but I think that's just to be oppositional, because a lot of it, if you follow the science, makes sense. But that's my bias. COVID, I'm the school nurse at Liberty Prep. Everybody knows how we rolled, I think, for a lot of them.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Well, you know what? We worked a lot with the public health department. We were very close friends, but we also used a lot of common sense. And our kids were in school. They were healthy. They were happy. We didn't have any more outbreaks, probably less outbreaks. So,
Do you require masks?
you know what, if you follow the letter of the law, it said specifically that if you are unable to wear a mask, then a waiver is required. So if a waiver was turned in by our parents, then the student did not have to wear a mask according to the law. My background is with a degree in government and politics, so I never knew why the Lord did that, but now I do. I love the idea of more recess and teachers able to have access to areas to burn off steam when the particular class needs it. Sorry.
So when I was a principal at Mount Morton School, one of the first things that I realized was that every morning at about 7:45, I would start smelling chocolate chip cookies. And our cafeteria was selling chocolate chip cookies for breakfast every day. And if you're in middle school, you go and buy a chocolate chip cookie. Now they were making money because it all comes back to money, right? But I called the superintendent. I said, "Oh, we can't serve chocolate chip cookies for breakfast." So we stopped doing that. When I was principal at Lake Norman Elementary School, we used to have weeks. So, for example, when it was time for the strawberries at Doug Kerrigan's farm, I would call Doug Kerrigan and we would make a big deal about strawberries, and I would get on the morning announcements and we would talk about how we were going to have strawberries for lunch that day. I'm going to say that I really don't think our school lunches are good. I don't think they look good. I don't think they taste good. We have some great people that work in our child nutrition department, but I don't eat that food, and I would love to see us change a lot of that. I think Michelle Obama did us all a really big disservice. When she came on, she was trying to do right things for school food, and it went totally down the tubes. As far as COVID goes, I was in the trenches during COVID. You can ask some of the folks, the former colleagues that I work with. I was second in charge at that time. My friends sometimes called me the COVID Nazi because our superintendent allowed me to be the person who made all the calls about that. Mr. Owl's laughing. I was the one who gave the report all the time. Our board attorney said, no, you had to wear a mask. So every time I got a call about COVID, every parent that I talked to, and I think I spoke with some of you, I took that question to my boss, and he usually took that question to our board attorney, and that's where those answers came from. So I will tell you that I retired with 30.02 years of service. I couldn't get out fast enough, and it was because of my experience during COVID. And no, when I was at home, we didn't wear a mask either.
Okay, everybody, well, thank you so much for your attention, and we are getting to that almost 8 o'clock hour. And so really the last thing I have to share with you is that each of these candidates will be given the option to sign the parent pledge. It says, I pledge to honor the fundamental rights of parents, including but not limited to the right to direct the education, medical care, and moral upbringing of their children. I pledge to advance policies that strengthen parental involvement and decision-making, increase transparency, defend against government overreach, and secure parental rights at all levels of government. So they'll each have a chance to answer that tonight and leave that with me. We have an opportunity to endorse. That is one of the jobs that Moms for Liberty does. So we talked about membership. To do a vote, you do have to become a member, and you can look on the website, you can reach out to me, you can take a card, and we can do that at another time. But the primary's coming up. We're gonna have to endorse somebody if they want to be endorsed. They've all been given questionnaires. It's a questionnaire, an interview, and a vote process. That is how we do an endorsement. So we'll be in touch with you about that. Those of you who have been members, you may need to renew. Those of you who've never done that and you're curious, you can definitely ask about it. But we thank you for your participation tonight. We hope you'll go and vote. Tell your neighbor to vote. Drive your neighbor to vote, right? Because that is the most important thing that we do in our republic. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, all the candidates, and we're going to have a great night. Thanks again.
Thank you.